Hello, this is Sarah V, and this week I am going to be making some little half slips. I have made this pattern before and I've already copied out the pattern, and the pattern is McCall 6972, and I'm going to be making that half slip. This is the slip that I made with it before back in college. It's a pretty good length. I wish I had one just about that much longer. So I am going to make one in pink for this dress. Today is Tuesday. I kind of want it for tomorrow. Let's see how that goes. It probably won't happen, let's be real. But it is fast and easy, so it might happen. And then I also want to make one for this black corduroy dress I have that I made the previous week. That would be 2 weeks ago. For the pink one, I have more of this pink satin. And then I think this is the one I'm going to make on camera because it's the same slip, but the other one I have is just this black satin. And that one I think I might put some lace at the bottom, but I might not. We'll see. I think to figure out how long I need each one to be, because they're not going to be the same length, I should measure them. So, to make sure that it doesn't show from underneath, part of the measurement included, well, it doesn't include this, but part of the pattern piece is actually where it folds down for the elastic casing. So there's that. So, and I probably only need about 1/2 inch for that. And then whatever is left from there down would be fine, being the length that I measured. Except for the pink one, I should probably take like 2 inches off that because it sits higher than my natural waist. And then just hem it up so that it doesn't show. I think that should be fine. Starting things off, I'm just going to pin this down, and then once this is pinned down, I am going to see how much I need to add to it before I cut the pattern out, because if I don't do that, I'll forget and then the slip will be too short. And the whole purpose of this was to have a slip that was the right length, and if it's not the right length, it was kind of dumb. But it's at 27 and 1/4 basically. And for the pink one, it needs to be 29 inches. Without the elastic, I have about 26 3/4. 29 inches. Maybe I make it 28 might be good. So I think if I just add like 1 1/4 inch, it will be okay. And if it's too long, I can trim it before I hem it. Let's see how this does. Ooh, that's actually good. Huzzah. Slip I cut out of this fabric, the body was cut on the bias, so it's not all even, and I do not like the idea of having a semi-nice chunk of fabric just not being very usable anymore because of that. So yeah, I'm going to do this to the rest of these pieces, and I guess we'll see you back then. I did end up getting to wear this Wednesday, and it worked quite well with my dress for Valentine's Day. Both of these slips only took about 1 yard each, so they didn't even help very much with my goal this year, but they are a good basic in my wardrobe that I have put off for far too long probably. It occurs to me that something else I should make a slip for is the dresses that I made with a Hollywood pattern. I have 4 of the jumper dresses, and I don't have a good slip to wear with them when it's cold, so I should make one of those because I think that'd be very useful, and I would get much more wear out of those when the weather gets colder. Now that these are all cut out, I can unpin everything and pin everything together. There's nothing to mark. For the black one, I ended up adding 4 inches from the hem, so it'd be up to 31 inches, the same length as the dress from the waist to the hem. And then I'll probably trim it because I figure it's better if it's slightly too long, and then I can just trim it. And then the lace that I have, it's a stretch lace. This isn't stretch satin, but it's fine. I've just put it at the bottom wherever it needs to be. I'll put it on top of the pink so it's easier to see. But then whenever I know what length it needs to be, I'll probably end up cutting off 1 inch to 1.5 inches of this. But we'll see how it is under it. And then just stitching on my machine like that on top of it, and then trimming away what I don't need. And then probably turning up the other edge and like securing it somehow so it doesn't fray out. Probably with a zigzag stitch. Now that everything's pinned up, I need to go over to the machine, and I'll probably only show you 1 or 2 seams as I sew them because it's the same thing each time. I'll probably do the pink one first, serge all the edges because I still have pink on my serger from my last project, and then I'll change it to black and do this one. But I think that will just be easier. So I guess I gotta get to it. Starting off my sewing, I am sewing all the seams the whole way around the slip. There are 6 seams in total. I did end up restitching every seam at half the seam allowance because the pattern didn't fit with the non-stretch satin the way it had with the stretch satin. However, I did serge it after that, so that should help with reinforcing the seams so that it will last a very long time, hopefully. I think for the future that I should alter the pattern a little bit, just so I have a little bit more ease, so it's easier to get up past my hips. And so I won't have to compromise the seam allowance that I have. Now I am sewing the waistband casing. I am sewing it down at an estimated 1/2 inch, leaving a gap at the center back to thread the elastic through. I am now able to thread the elastic through, maneuvering between seam bulk. Sometimes I find it helpful to tape the safety pin closed to ensure it won't open up in the casing, because when that happens, that's an actual disaster. Sometimes you can't get it back closed, and sometimes you have to open up the seam to get it back out, and then you have to sew that up again later. So that's not super fun. I am now securing the elastic to itself with some zigzag stitches. I've also done this with straight stitches. Now that it's in, I can sew the gap shut, and I have a pin to keep it in place to keep the elastic. Join at the center back just in case I ever have to open the casing up in the future. On my first slip, I used a zigzag stitch to keep the elastic in place, but I found this time around a straight stitch worked just as well with the elastic stretched out completely while sewing. This just keeps the elastic from rolling around and not laying flat later on. Over at the ironing board, I am pressing all the seams and ironing all the gores, which I should have done before sewing, because once it was sewn up, it wasn't very fun to try to get up in there and have it laid flat. So I greatly regret doing that. So I have the slip made up, nice and ironed. Not the best iron, let's be real. It is good. I'm just checking to see how far I should hem it up. And it looks like 1 inch would be just fine. Because if I pull it up, the serged edge is like right by the hem. So I'll just turn that up 1 inch and you don't even see it. So that's good. It's long enough, but it's not so long that it's going to be peeking out all the time. So there's that. I pinned up my hem at 1 inch and sewed it up by machine. And I just used part of the throat plate as a guide. It wasn't even one that was part of the seam allowance. After pressing the hem, the slip is done. For the black slip, I trimmed 1 inch off the hem, laid the lace over top, aligning the bottoms of the lace with the bottom of the slip, pinning it in place and zigzagging it on. Then I trimmed the excess fabric off. This hem was the only difference between the two slips. I'm quite happy with how my slips turned out. They're just very practical, very basic. I probably didn't iron them that good. It is what it is. Once they're washed and dried, after I wear them, they come out nice and wrinkle-free again because they're polyester. The only thing negative I really have to say about them is that I greatly underestimated the amount of stretch that the stretch satin had whenever I moved over to a non-stretch satin, and then like I had to let every seam out to 1/4 of an inch because it just wasn't, I couldn't get it past my hips. So, and then for the black one, I zigzag stitched around the edge of the lace, which went because it's a stretch lace and the satin has absolutely no stretch. So there is puckers and it is what it is. It looks fine. And no one's gonna see it because it's a slip, so it's whatever. I have 3 half slips that I can wear in my rotation. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more sewing content, please subscribe. If you would like to see what I'm up to day, feel free to follow me at Sarah V Sews Vintage. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.